What is key to remember is that our intention and focus are at their strongest when our goals align with our deepest life choices and values. That's quite a statement to kick things off, but it really captures the essence of what we're diving into today with The Source by Tara Swart.
It really does. That quote speaks to the heart of Tara's message. We have the power within us, to shape our own reality, and it all comes down to aligning our intentions with those deep-seated values.
And The Source lays out a 4-step program to do just that, blending neuroscience, psychiatry, and some really interesting ancient practices to unlock your brain's true potential. It's fascinating stuff.
It is, and Tara goes beyond just talking about things like the law of attraction and visualization, which a lot of people have heard of, but she actually explains the science behind them, how neuroplasticity plays a crucial role in all of this.
So to really grasp The Source, it seems like we need to start with Tara's background. It's pretty unique.
Oh, absolutely. Growing up in 1970s London, but with a family deeply rooted in traditional Indian beliefs, it created this really fascinating blend of cultures for her.
Easy to see how that sparked a lifelong fascination with the human mind.
Definitely. And that fascination led her to a very successful career in psychiatry and neuroscience. But, she eventually found traditional approaches to be somewhat limiting, especially that heavy focus on illness rather than on overall well-being.
And then a personal crisis in her mid-30s became a catalyst for a major shift in her thinking.
Yeah, facing a divorce and leaving her medical career forced Tara to confront the need for mental resilience head-on. And that led her down this path of exploring alternative methods for optimizing health and well-being.
And this is where the law of attraction really comes into play. The idea that our thoughts can shape our reality.
Which a lot of people might dismiss as just positive thinking. But Tara goes deeper. She delves into the neurological basis for it, explaining how our brains are wired to filter information based on our thoughts and assign value to different experiences.
It's like we create our own filters.
We do, and she introduces this idea of the intention point, this kind of sweet spot where intuition, emotion, and rational thinking all come together and align.
That's powerful.
It is. When we can set goals from that point of alignment, we tap into a deeper level of focus and determination, and we're way more likely to achieve those goals.
Tara illustrates this with a compelling story about a woman named Pippa, who used an action board to help visualize her ideal life while going through a difficult divorce.
Creating that visual representation really helped Pippa clarify her goals, make tough decisions, and ultimately led her to a life she truly loved. It's a great example of how to translate those abstract concepts like visualization into tangible actions.
Absolutely. So, starting with this foundation of the law of attraction and intention, Tara outlines 6 key principles that form the core of The Source. And the first one is abundance.
Right. Abundance is all about shifting from a scarcity mindset to one of, abundance. It's about recognizing all of the potential and possibilities that are already out there, surrounding us.
And understanding how past experiences, even our fears, can create these negative thought patterns that prevent us from seeing and seizing those opportunities.
Exactly. Tara shares a story about a woman named Claire who was struggling with a lot of career insecurity. She was constantly fearing job loss, missing out on opportunities for growth.
Stuck in that cycle of scarcity.
She was, but by guiding Claire to identify and challenge those deep-seated limiting beliefs, Tara helped her cultivate an abundance mindset, and that led to greater confidence and much bolder career choices.
It's amazing how our beliefs can shape our reality, even when those beliefs aren't really serving us.
They really do. And the second principle, magnetic desire, builds upon that abundance by emphasizing the importance of cultivating a focused, unwavering desire.
One that really fuels action.
Exactly. And Tara's own journey of leaving her medical career to pursue her passion is a great testament to that principle.
She took a huge risk.
She did. And she faced plenty of challenges and setbacks along the way. But Tara's unwavering belief in her vision, her commitment to her purpose kept her going. It's a good reminder that achieving goals requires more than just hoping or wishing. It demands that burning desire that drives you to take consistent action.
The third principle, connectedness, reminds us that we're not isolated individuals, but part of something much bigger.
Right, part of this larger web of relationships and energy. It highlights the importance of cultivating a sense of belonging, finding your tribe, surrounding yourself with people who support and uplift you.
Sounds great, but I imagine it's not always easy to find those people.
You're right. And Tara also cautions against the negative impact of what she calls contagion, where the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors of those around us can actually influence our own well-being.
So even the company we keep, can have a significant impact on our journey.
It can. And it's a good reminder to be mindful of those we surround ourselves with, recognizing that our social circles can either drain our energy or amplify our potential.
It's like choosing who to let into our inner circle.
Exactly. Tara offers this practical exercise called the people tree to help people assess the impact of their social connections, identifying those who truly lift them up and those who might be bringing them down.
I like that.
And it encourages people to consciously cultivate a really supportive and inspiring social environment, one that nurtures their growth.
Makes sense. The fourth principle, intuition, encourages us to trust those gut feelings, those whispers of wisdom.
It is about recognizing that intuition isn't some mystical force, but actually this complex interplay between our emotional experiences, our past knowledge, and even the physical health of our gut.
So our gut health actually plays a role in our intuition.
It does, and Tara shares this really interesting story about a woman named Jacqueline. Her personality started to change, and initially everyone thought it was due to psychological issues. But it turned out that those changes were actually traced back to a physical brain injury.
Wow. So the mind-body connection is really important here.
Absolutely. It highlights the importance of considering both the mind and body when it comes to intuition, recognizing that our physical health plays a huge role in our overall well-being.
The fifth principle, motivation, focuses on how to bridge that gap between intention and action.
Right. It's about understanding what drives us to pursue our goals. Tara distinguishes between positive motivation, which is driven by inspiration, and a genuine desire to achieve things.
As opposed to negative motivation.
Exactly, which is often fueled by fear, guilt, or even the need to avoid something unpleasant. And while negative motivation can work in the short term, it's not sustainable.
It can lead to burnout, right?
It can. Tara uses the example of Lee, a filmmaker who was really struggling with procrastination and distractions. By identifying her negative motivators and replacing them with positive ones, she was able to regain her focus and reignite that passion for filmmaking.
So it's crucial to be mindful of what truly motivates us.
It is, making sure our actions are aligned with our values and aspirations.
The sixth and final principle, logic, seems to challenge the overemphasis on logic in our society.
It does. It reminds us that we're not just rational beings. We're complex individuals with emotions, intuition, and creativity.
We're not robots.
Exactly. And Tara argues that true wisdom lies in finding that balance between logic and intuition, using our reasoning skills to make informed decisions, but also honoring our gut feelings and embracing our creativity.
So it's about integrating those different ways of knowing.
It is. And she cautions against what she calls flawed pattern recognition, where our brains can misinterpret information based on our past experiences, which leads to biased judgments and limiting beliefs.
So even our logic can be flawed at times.
It can. It's a good reminder to constantly question our assumptions, be open to new information, and embrace a more holistic approach to decision-making.
One that takes into account logic, intuition, all of it.
Exactly.
These 6 principles lay the groundwork for understanding the core concepts of the source. But how do we actually put them into practice? This is where neuroplasticity comes in.
Right. Neuroplasticity is the brain's amazing ability to adapt and change throughout our lives. It challenges that old belief that our brains are fixed and unchanging.
So our brains are more like, I don't know, Play-Doh than concrete.
I like that analogy. And Tara's personal experience with resisting reading glasses is a great example of this in action.
She didn't want to accept age-related vision decline.
Nope. Instead of accepting it, she consciously used neuroplasticity to maintain her vision.
That's remarkable.
She also draws on this fascinating case of Phineas Gage, this railway worker whose personality completely changed after a brain injury. It's a really early example of how our brains can rewire themselves.
So if our brains can change so dramatically after a traumatic injury, it stands to reason that we can also intentionally make changes through more subtle means.
Exactly, and that's what the source explores. It provides this framework for tapping into neuroplasticity to create positive changes in our lives, whether it's breaking bad habits, overcoming limiting beliefs, or developing new skills.
So it's about harnessing the power of neuroplasticity for personal growth.
Absolutely. If someone like Sophie, who completely transformed her unhealthy lifestyle through conscious effort and rewiring her brain, can do it, then anyone can.
That's encouraging, but how do we actually do it? How do we rewire our brains for the better?
That's where the concept of brain agility comes in.
Brain agility, what is that exactly?
It's the ability to think flexibly, adapt to different situations, and access different thinking styles. It encompasses 6 key pathways: emotions, physicality, intuition, creativity, motivation, and logic. Sound familiar?
Those are the same 6 principles we just discussed.
They are, and Tara provides this self-assessment exercise for readers to identify their strengths and weaknesses in each of these pathways. It's like creating a personalized roadmap for brain agility development.
This is where the real work begins. It's not just about reading the book. It's about applying these principles and techniques to our own lives.
Exactly, and it all starts with self-care. That's the foundation for optimal brain function.
Self-care. Is that just bubble baths and face masks?
It's more than that. Tara emphasizes a more holistic approach to self-care. Getting enough sleep, staying hydrated, engaging in regular exercise, creating a calm and organized environment.
The basics, but so important.
They are. It's about creating this foundation of physical and mental well-being, from which we can then explore those more advanced techniques like visualization.
Visualization being a powerful tool for creating desired outcomes.
It is, and there's actually scientific evidence showing that visualization can activate similar brain regions as real-life experiences.
So our brains can't always distinguish between what we imagine and what we actually experience.
It's more complex than that, but there's definitely a powerful connection there. And Tara even includes this visualization exercise in the book called Positive View, Negative View, to help you explore different mental states.
It's like using our imagination to rewire our brains to expect those positive outcomes.
It's more about priming our brains to be receptive to opportunities that align with our desires. And that's where action boards come in.
Action boards, those collages with pictures of dream houses and exotic vacations, are those really more than just a daydreaming tool?
They are. Tara stresses that action boards should inspire action. It's about choosing images and words that represent your goals, and then using those visuals as motivation to take action.
This is starting to sound like a lot of work.
It does take effort. Rewiring our brains for lasting change takes time, effort, and commitment.
No quick fixes.
There aren't, but the rewards are definitely worth it.
Okay, so we've got visualization, action boards. What else?
Focused attention is crucial. Being present, being mindful, clearing out those old patterns to make way for new neural pathways.
But in today's world, with all the distractions, being present can be a real challenge.
It can. That's why Tara stresses the importance of cultivating presence through things like meditation and mindfulness.
I've heard a lot about mindfulness, but I'm still not entirely sure what it actually means.
It's really about bringing our attention to the present moment without judgment, noticing our thoughts and feelings without getting carried away by them.
So becoming more aware of what's happening both inside and outside of ourselves.
Exactly. It's a skill that can be developed through practice, like using a meditation app or simply focusing on your breath.
It sounds like there are many paths to mindfulness.
There are. It's about finding what works best for you. And Tara shares a story about a woman named Linda who found a lot of calmness through listening to music.
So it's not just about sitting on a cushion for hours, chanting.
Not at all. It's about finding ways to bring presence into your everyday life. And once you develop that focused attention, you can use it to actually rewire your brain through what's called deliberate practice.
Deliberate practice. What does that involve?
It's about consciously repeating new behaviors and thought patterns until they become automatic. Tara shares the story of Alex, a CEO who transformed his leadership style and even his personal relationships through deliberate practice of empathy and emotional intelligence.
Wow, so even complex skills like emotional intelligence can be developed through deliberate practice.
Absolutely. That's the power of neuroplasticity. We can literally rewire our brains to be more empathetic, more compassionate, and more resilient. It's about understanding your source fingerprint. It's kind of like uncovering those unique neural pathways, those patterns in your brain that have been shaped by, well, all of your past experiences, your beliefs, everything.
So it's kind of like a deep dive into our personal history, similar to what we were talking about with Tara's background.
Exactly. The goal here is to identify those ghosts from your past. Those unspoken rules, those expectations that you've picked up along the way that might be holding you back without you even realizing it.
That's where the real introspection comes in, really examining those subconscious beliefs that could be sabotaging our efforts.
You got it. And that's where step 2 comes into play. Creating a vision for your future. This is where things start to get exciting. Shifting the focus from dwelling on the past to envisioning the life you want to create, the life you want to live.
This is where those action boards we talked about come in, serving as visual representations of our aspirations.
Exactly. But it's not about creating this fantasy board filled with unattainable dreams. It's about choosing images and words that truly represent your deepest values, your goals, the kind of person you want to become.
Aligning our vision with our authentic selves.
Yeah.
Not chasing after some external ideal.
Precisely. And action boards aren't meant to be static creations. Tara emphasizes revisiting them, updating them regularly, keeping that vision for the future front and center in your mind.
It's about letting those images and words seep into our subconscious, inspiring action, and aligning our energy with our desired outcomes.
Right. The third step is where the rubber meets the road, focused attention. It's about intentionally directing our attention, filtering out all of the noise, the distractions that constantly bombard us.
Which is no easy feat in today's world.
It's not. Tara argues that the modern world is practically designed to keep us distracted, making it that much harder to connect with our inner wisdom, our intuition.
So how do we combat that?
That's why cultivating focus and attention is so crucial, creating that space for deeper insights to emerge. Tara offers a bunch of different techniques, from traditional mindfulness practices to really simple exercises that you can incorporate into your daily life.
It seems like finding what works for you is key. Whether it's meditation, spending time in nature, or even just taking a few deep breaths before making a decision.
You got it. It's about being more intentional with our attention, choosing where we focus our energy instead of just letting ourselves be pulled in a million different directions.
Okay, and the final step, deliberate practice. That brings everything together, putting all these principles and techniques into practice.
But it's more than just taking action. It's about consciously repeating those new behaviors and thought patterns over and over again until they become ingrained in our neural circuitry, until they become second nature.
So it's about building new habits, essentially.
Exactly. And Tara really stresses that this takes time, effort, and consistency. There will be setbacks, moments where you might fall back into old patterns.
But the key is to keep going, keep practicing, and trust that process of neuroplasticity.
Absolutely. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. Experiment, find what works for you, and be patient with yourself along the way.
This all sounds incredibly empowering, but I can imagine it can feel overwhelming to try to implement all of these steps to stick with it. What advice does Tara offer for those who might be feeling, well, overwhelmed?
One of the most important things Tara emphasizes is self-compassion. We're often our own worst critics, and that inner critic can be a major obstacle to change.
It's about silencing that negative self-talk, replacing it with kindness and understanding.
Exactly. Tara encourages us to acknowledge our efforts, celebrate our successes, and just remember that change takes time. It's not about overnight transformations. It's about making small, consistent changes that compound over time.
Focusing on progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
Recognizing that we're all works in progress.
Right. Tara also stresses the importance of creating a supportive environment for change. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, who believe in your potential, and support you along the way.
And limiting exposure to those who bring us down or reinforce those old limiting beliefs. Consciously shaping our environment to support growth and well-being.
Exactly. It's about making conscious choices about who and what we allow into our lives.
All of this sounds great, but it takes courage to embrace personal transformation. What advice does Tara offer for those who might be feeling scared or uncertain about this whole process?
Tara acknowledges that fear is a natural part of the process. Anytime we step outside of our comfort zone, fear is bound to pop up. But it's about not letting that fear paralyze us.
So it's about recognizing that fear is often a signal that we're on the right track, that we're pushing ourselves to grow.
Precisely. Acknowledge the fear, accept it as part of the journey, but take action anyway.
Don't let it hold you back.
Don't. Tara talks about the importance of reframing fear as excitement, shifting our perspective to view those challenges as opportunities for growth.
I like that.
And she reminds us that we have the power to choose our thoughts, our beliefs. We can choose to focus on the positive, believe in our potential, and trust in the process of change.
It's about shifting from a mindset of fear and limitation to one of possibility and empowerment.
Exactly. The source is ultimately a guide to unlocking our inner power, to becoming the architects of our own lives.
That's a powerful image.
It is, but I know some people might still be grappling with this idea of rewiring their brains. Is there a simpler way to think about all of this?
A simpler way to grasp this concept of neuroplasticity.
Tara uses this really helpful analogy of a garden.
A garden. How does that relate to rewiring our brains?
She compares our brains to gardens, suggesting that just like a garden, our brains need tending, nurturing, and sometimes, well, a little weeding.
Okay, I can see where this is going. So our negative thoughts and beliefs are like the weeds that need to be pulled up, while our positive thoughts and actions are the seeds that we want to plant and nurture.
Exactly. The more we focus on those positive seeds, the more they'll grow and flourish. And the more we weed out those negative thoughts, the less space they'll have to take root.
That makes the concept a lot more tangible. So the source is basically a guide to becoming vaster gardeners of our own minds.
You got it. It's about taking responsibility for our mental landscape, cultivating the thoughts, the beliefs, the habits that support our growth and well-being.
So we're not just passive recipients of our thoughts and emotions. We're active participants in shaping them.
Exactly. And that's an incredibly empowering message.
This is starting to make a lot of sense. But I'm curious about the practical side of things. What specific exercises or techniques does Tara recommend for actually rewiring our brains?
Visualization is a big one, and it's not just about those vision boards. It's about really engaging all of your senses, creating vivid mental pictures of the life you want, the person you want to become.
Like creating a mental movie, a dress rehearsal for our future selves.
Exactly. And the more detail you can add to that mental movie, the more real it becomes to your brain. You're not just seeing the images, you're feeling the emotions, hearing the sounds, even smelling the smells.
It's about creating this fully immersive experience that can really rewire those neural pathways.
Exactly. But it's important to remember that visualization isn't a passive practice. It has to be coupled with action.
So it's not enough to just sit there and daydream.
Right. Taking action is essential. It bridges the gap between imagination and reality.
So it's not enough to just visualize getting that dream job. You have to actually start applying for jobs.
You do. And it doesn't always have to be these grand sweeping actions. Even those small, consistent steps towards your goals can create a ton of momentum.
It's about creating this chain reaction of positive actions,
Yeah,
propelling us forward.
exactly. Tara encourages breaking down your goals into those manageable steps, creating action plans, holding yourself accountable.
This is where discipline and perseverance come in.
They do. We have to show up for ourselves, even when it's challenging, because setbacks are inevitable. There will be moments when we falter, when we want to give up.
But it's about not letting those setbacks completely derail us, learning from our mistakes and getting back on track.
Exactly. Tara encourages us to practice self-compassion, forgive ourselves for those missteps, and focus on the progress we have made.
Acknowledging our efforts, celebrating even those small victories along the way.
Yes, that positive reinforcement helps to solidify those new neural pathways and keep us motivated.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of visualization, taking action. Is there any evidence to support these claims? Does the source actually work?
Well, Tara draws on a ton of scientific research to support her approach, citing studies from neuroscience, psychology, and even epigenetics.
Epigenetics, that's the study of how our environment and experiences can actually change the way our genes express themselves, right?
Exactly. And Tara argues that our thoughts, beliefs, and actions can actually influence our gene expression, essentially rewiring our biology at a very fundamental level.
So we're not just changing our minds, we're changing our bodies as well.
Precisely. And Tara believes that this is where the real power of the source lies, tapping into our innate ability to heal, grow, and evolve, even at a cellular level.
That's pretty remarkable. But a lot of self-help techniques out there promise big results, but fail to deliver. What makes the source different?
Well, Tara's method is unique because it blends this cutting-edge scientific research with those ancient wisdom traditions. It's not just about willpower or positive thinking. It's about actually rewiring our brains for lasting change.
A much deeper, more comprehensive approach to personal growth.
It is. It's about understanding the power of our subconscious minds, tapping into that wellspring of wisdom and creativity that we all have within us.
And this requires a more holistic perspective, right? Addressing our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being.
Exactly. The source provides a roadmap for creating lasting change in all areas of our lives.
This has been an incredibly insightful exploration of the source. Before we wrap things up, what's the one key takeaway you hope listeners will gain from this deep dive?
That we are far more powerful than we realize. Our brains are not fixed. Our lives are not predetermined. We have the ability to change, to grow, to create the life we truly desire.
It's about embracing that power of neuroplasticity, believing in our ability to rewire our brains for the better.
And it's about taking action, putting those principles into practice, committing to that journey of personal transformation.
Well said. This has been an amazing journey through the pages of the source. I feel like I've gained a deeper understanding, not just of the brain, but of myself and the possibilities for change.
It's been my pleasure sharing this deep dive with you, and I encourage all of you listening to check out The Source by Tara Swart. You can find a link to the book in the description below.
And be sure to like and subscribe to By the Pages for more deep dives into fascinating books and ideas. Until next time, happy reading.